It's pressed. That means we can talk to John Wehner on the line with us from Bradenton, Florida this morning. John, how are you?
I'm doing good, Todd. How are you?
I'm fabulous. Are you enjoying watching all these home runs flying out of Lecom Park?
It's crazy. It's really amazing. You hope it goes into the regular season. I don't think this team's going to hit 2 home runs a game like they have down here, but there's definitely going to be more power in the lineup, and certainly nice to see O'Neal Cruz get off to such a nice start, considering he missed all of last year. But Sawinski goes deep. He looks like he might be the cleanup hitter this year. Billy McKinney added a homer to deep center. I mean, straightaway center. I didn't know he had that kind of pop. So he's had a nice spring as well. But offensively, yes, it takes a lot of pressure off the pitching staff if you can hit the ball at the ballpark.
Absolutely. And I thought Jack Sawinski had a very mature approach to it yesterday, because he had a couple of hits. One of them went out of the ballpark, and he says, hey, we're not going to be doing this all year. This ballpark here in Bradenton helps out a lot with that. And as Brian Reynolds said the other day, they're playing in hurricane winds, knocking the ball out of the park. But it's fun. And they do have to be on the ball when that pitch comes in order to make that solid contact, whether it goes out or not. And they seem to be hitting at a very solid pace. They're squaring it up.
And they are kind of deflecting a little bit because there can be a lot of wind down here. Yesterday there was hardly any wind. That's a kind of a rarity, but a lot of these home runs have been tape measure shots. McKinney's and Sawinski's balls yesterday are hit out of PNC. Maybe not Cruz's, as he had a high fly ball to left. It wouldn't have been out of PNC, but the lineup still will have power, more power than we've seen the last several years. Again, you do kind of take home runs with a grain of salt down here because the wind does. It is a factor in a lot of games, but not this spring. I would say the majority of the ones I've seen this year, there's only been a couple that I think that the wind got them out of the ballpark. So. As much as they don't want to talk about it or say that they're cheap or however they want to put it, this team has some power. And it is going to be different during the year. I guess, again, they're not going to hit 2 a game. I think they get 34 in 18 games, which is very impressive. But they do have power at every position. And, and sometimes you don't hit the ball at the ballpark, and I do think it's important for them to get on base, and we've seen pretty good approaches. Guys are taking their walks. Guys are using the whole field. So sometimes you do have to manufacture runs, especially in the closer games, and I think they have that mentality, which is a good thing. But the instant offense, when you can put the ball in the seats with one swing, certainly helps offensively.
It's interesting you say a couple of those things. Number one, when they get to PNC Park and they're playing ball, they're going against Major League pitchers, so that's one thing. But you mentioned sort of the science of hitting there, and you've been studying this a long time as a player and as a coach and as a broadcaster as well. When guys are entering into a season and they get into that off season, they say, well, this was where I was weak last season, and I'm going to work on that in the batting cage all winter long. And then spring training, they sort of take that out for its first road test. Holes in the swing, different approaches at the plate, trying to go opposite field to identify a weakness that pitchers might exploit. There is a real science to it, and a lot of these guys have specialized coaches now, don't they?
Yes. Hitting has become more of a science, I think, than ever before. I think these guys work on their craft more than they ever have in the past. Going back to the 90s, I mean, you might hit a couple days, 2 or 3 days a week from, after New Year's till spring training. These guys work year-round in the fall, probably almost every day. They can analyze it. They could, scientifically figure out maybe where they can get better, shorten things up, try to keep their bat in the zone longer, how to create more power, et cetera, and so forth. And And I think it is important, and I think it is helpful with all the data and all the things that they can figure out, not only mechanically, but they have so much data on the opposing pitcher and how to approach them and what you're going to see in certain counts, et cetera. And so, there's so much information out there, but I also think it's important to, minimize your thinking once you get into the batter's box and trust all the things that you've worked on in the winter or pregame or in spring training, to where when you get into that batter's box, you don't want to overthink or try too much. Hitting's hard, very hard at the major league level, or at the minor league level for that matter. That's why guys are only successful 3 out of 10 times to be great. You're going to fail a bunch, and so being able to overcome those failures and be able to just try to be as consistent as possible and just swing at strikes. It's so much easier said than done, and I can't emphasize that enough. Hitting is hard, but these guys work extremely hard at it, probably more so than ever before. But yeah, there are times where, if you go up there trying to hit home runs, you're going to struggle, because home runs aren't always hit. Sometimes it's just a mistake by a pitcher. There are mistake pitches that you're just in a right position to hit out of the ballpark. Sometimes you have to just hit the ball the other way, or just try to manufacture a run, like I said earlier, and instead of trying to force the ball out of the ballpark, because that's when you get into trouble.
It's interesting. When you think about it, when I was growing up, everybody was talking about really scientific hitters. I thought Bill Madlock had a great approach, and I can imagine guys on the bench watching Madlock hit and stopping what they're doing just to watch the way that he approached it. When you were playing, especially as a young Buck, I always thought Barry Bonds' approach at the plate was just so right on. For everything that they say about Barry Bonds, he really could construct an at-bat. When you were coming up as a young Pirate through the system, I'm sure you had all kinds of coaches, but there were players that you could look to that you could say, all right, I see what he's doing. I can watch his process work out. Who were those guys for you?
Well, it's funny you bring up like a Bill Madlock, who had maybe one of the shorter swings I've ever seen at the major league level. He was so short and quick, and when you're short and quick like that, you have more time to see the ball and to pick up the spin and the velocity and adjust from there. And that's where Barry Bonds, to me, was the best I've ever seen. He was afforded more time. That's why he was so great. He had more time to read and react to a pitch than anybody else. Now, unfortunately for most hitters, including especially myself, I didn't have that much time. So, I wasn't that short and quick, and certainly not that powerful as a guy like Barry Bonds. But, the guys that I loved watching, I think about a Wade Boggs and a Tony Gwynn, and later, like even more recently, like an Albert Pujols and a Miguel Cabrera, just with power. But what they did better than most was hit the ball the other way, and that's a thing that's a very difficult approach to take, because hitters are afraid of the fastball. They don't want to get, not afraid, but like they don't want to get jammed by fastballs. So they're always thinking about getting the bat head out, pulling the triggers early, and that's when you see more chases to breaking balls. Like a guy like Miguel Cabrera, I remember him as a 20-year-old with the Marlins, and I'm thinking, wow, this guy's approach and the way he hits is way beyond his years, because he'd try to hit the ball the other way. Or Albert Pujols hit the ground running his rookie year in 2001, hitting the ball the other way, and then you make a mistake with a breaking ball and he hits it out of the ballpark to left. Those guys, to me, if you can copy anybody, I would say Miguel Cabrera and Albert Pujols were probably the best combination of average and power, because they didn't try to pull the ball. They weren't worried about getting jammed with fastballs, so you didn't go up there seeing them flail away at breaking balls out of the zone, because they were giving themselves more time by thinking of hitting the ball the other way, which allows the ball to travel a little bit further. And so, teammates of mine, I'm sure there's a bunch that I looked at and watched how they worked. But as a fan and playing against those guys, I was thinking, wow, that they're like approaches are so perfect as far as the combination of contact and power.
Yeah, and young Johnny Wehner growing up and watching the Pittsburgh Pirates just as I was always enamored of Al Oliver. I always thought Scoop was just an incredibly disciplined hitter, and he always hit line drives. It was just incredible.
Yeah, and then he had power, and he drove in runs. And why that guy's not in the Hall of Fame, I have no idea. I mean, that guy, of all the Pirates that aren't in there, and I know he's moved around a bunch, but he and Dave Parker, but Al Oliver was a little different hitter than Dave Parker. But both of those guys, how they're not in the Hall of Fame, just amazes me.
Yeah, it really does. All right, we're getting down toward the end of spring training. It's not all that far. The Pirates made some moves yesterday. Termarr Johnson went down, and who's the other one that went down with him? Jack Brannigan. You've watched these young guys as they've come up, and you've seen them for a couple of springs at least, and I don't know how many times you've been able to watch guys like Brannigan hit or Termarr Johnson, but they've got some real potential down there, don't they?
They sure do. There's a lot of young talent, pitching and position player wise. It'll be fun, I guess, to see that the prospect game Thursday night. But Brannigan, with some power, playing a power position at third base, it certainly has a lot of promise. But Termarr Johnson as a 19-year-old. I was trying to think like a young Andrew McCutchen, kind of thin, trying to grow into his body, great bat speed. John, he's not like that. He's bigger. He looks like a man, and he walked 100 times last year, but he has tremendous power and a very aggressive swing. The way he attacks the ball, you don't expect a guy to be that patient. So, he has more probably of a approach like Barry Bonds than he does of a Andrew McCutchen, and that he attacks the ball and attacks it with power and still has that great patience. So, he's for a 19-year-old, very impressive, Termarr, and it wouldn't surprise me to see him playing in the big leagues before he's old enough to drink.
Well, that would be lovely because that would mean that the Pirates have one of the top prospects in baseball in their own infield. John Wehner, it's been good talking a little hitting with you today about the young Bucs and the old Bucs too.
Yeah, always good to chat. It's what I do for a living. Love talking baseball, and so pretty excited about the season coming up.
You betcha. We'll talk to you again on Friday.
All right, thanks, Tom.
There's John Wehner with us this morning on the Voice of Indiana County, WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160, and WCCSradio.com. Our conversations with our Pirates broadcasters, brought to you by Delaney and Fritz PC and by A&A Construction.